2017 was a fantastic year for gaming. Nintendo came back and destroyed everyone. Beloved characters were reborn, the 3D platformer genre was revived, and a ton of awesome stuff was announced at that year's E3. 2017 was also a good year for visual novels. You had stuff like Doki Doki Literature Club that put a twist on the genre and pushed the boundaries of what could be done in a visual novel. And even Game Grumps released a game in this field. But there was one game that perhaps was dealt a bad hand in terms of its marketing. It never really got discovered outside of a niche part of an already niche community. This game is called Angels with Scaly Wings. It's a dragon-themed science fiction visual novel with dating sim elements. Now before you guys kill me, allow me to explain why I'm bringing up this game in the first place. So I played this back in early February, not really expecting much. I had heard about it on social media in the past, and then I saw it on Steam. In my experience, most visual novels that I've played hasn't really been that special, with the exception of Doki Doki, which if you guys haven't seen or played that yet, I highly recommend it. It's free. You literally have nothing to lose there. I expected this to be the cookie-cut, like, default fanfiction story of, whoa, I've been teleported to a strange world with insert species here. Time to not ask any questions and just run off and die. That's kind of what the trailer makes it out to be. But holy shit, was I wrong. Like, wow. One thing I didn't really notice before going into the game is that it has an overwhelmingly positive review status. 98% of all reviews are positive. Evidently it's for a good reason. And with those bad reviews, which by the way, there's only 15 of them right now, a good chunk of them are from people who haven't even given the game enough of a chance. This person only has 0.8 hours on record. That's nowhere near a first playthrough, never mind the full game. And most of the stuff he points out is wrong too. It's all explained in the game. He just didn't play it long enough to find it. This person didn't even pay attention. Like, at all. And there's like 3 of them that are just like one-sentence statements that don't really go in depth as to why they don't like it. Some of those don't even address anything from the game other than the fact that it's a dragon dating sim. And don't get me wrong, there are still some negative reviews that are actually well made. But even so, they're outweighed very, very heavily. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining why I think this game is incredible. Now, I don't want to spoil too much. It'd be awesome if people could experience this game blind. I highly recommend it. In the first part of the video, I'll be giving general ideas and such. And I'll only show specific stuff from the prologue, chapter 1, and some side character routes. In the second part, I'll go more in depth, but again, I'll try to spoil as little as possible. Let's begin. One thing that I should bring up is that this is a visual novel. A novel in game form. The story and writing is probably the most important part, so it's gotta have a good story. And if you're gonna want to enjoy it in the first place, you're gonna have to know how to read. So if you're like the most anti-reading person in the world, you're probably not gonna like this or any other visual novel or visual anything. I myself like reading. 90% of my time in 8th grade was spent reading stuff like The Inheritance Cycle, so I'm all good there. Angels with Scaly Wings' story is probably one of the best I've seen in a game. Period. Not even just like a visual novel, a game. The game has a heavy science element to it, which is kind of expected of a science fiction novel, and it leads to some genuinely interesting and thought-provoking moments. And it's surprisingly realistic. I'll explain that more in detail later. I'll lay out the base story for you guys in a little bit, but first I'm gonna point out some factors of the game itself. It of course includes the basics of most visual novels. You got models for each character and for different emotions, you got different choices that lead to different endings, and many different dialogue changes. It uses the whole 20XX year thing, which is understandable. Giving a specific year in science fiction stuff isn't always a good idea. I mean, look at Back to the Future. They said we'll have a bunch of cool stuff in 2015. Meanwhile, what did we actually have in 2015? We didn't have shit in 2015. There's decent sound effects for most actions, and there's also visual effects for certain events that happen. It's a nice touch.
Nice touch.
The protagonist is unseen, as it's supposed to be your own character. You can enter in your own name and make your own dialogue choices. Hey, look, I put my name as Blue, I'm so cool. Now, one of the actually competent negative reviews of the game pointed out how this doesn't exactly work out because the character has a clear personality of their own. So it's not a fill-in-the-blank protagonist, but it certainly doesn't affect the story's quality. If anything, I like it better with the protagonists having their own distinct personality. This next part, I'll be explaining the basic story of the prologue and chapter 1. Humanity has recently discovered a device that turns out to be a portal in the middle of nowhere. After tinkering with it for a little bit, the portal turned out to still be functional. After a few tests, they discovered something on the other side of the portal. Neither side really knew anything about the portal or its origin story. They sent letters back and forth, but humanity realized if they were going to do anything with this discovery, they would need to do it quickly because the portal takes up a shit ton of energy. Energy that humanity doesn't exactly have right now. The other side sent an invitation and humanity accepted. They sent over one person. This person that volunteered was named Riza. The protagonist had known him from school, but barely enough to be considered anything more than an acquaintance. They sent him over with a PDA and a gun. Just in case. Hours later, he sent a letter back. While humanity expected the other side of the portal to be some different country or continent, it turned out to be something completely different. When Riza described it as a world populated by sentient reptiles, everyone took it as a joke, but eventually they realized that there's nothing to haha about here. So they both agreed to a trade. Humanity would give them 3 PDAs that contained a shit ton of human knowledge, and they would get sustainable generators in return. So the protagonist fit the criteria to be the one to deliver the PDAs and make the trade alongside Riza. You play as an ambassador, representing humanity. You gotta make a good first impression so humanity could have a diplomatic relationship with the dragons. So it's a win-win. Everyone goes home happy, right? Everyone's good. Throughout the prologue in Chapter 1, you meet the 5 main characters of the story. Remy, Bryce, Adine, Anna, and Lauren. After meeting up with Riza for a little while, he sends an encrypted message to you saying to meet him at the portal. When you go there, he's about to tell you some concerns he has when Maverick, Riza's assigned bodyguard, interrupts and confronts Riza. He had suspected him of planning something sinister. Riza goes apeshit and shoots a man, and then he runs off. You eventually are approached and questioned by the chief of police, Bryce. You're then taken back to the apartment that their government supplied you. The next day, you're approached by the police again. Riza has now become a murder suspect, so that's fun. Now you have a choice. You could either help the police find Riza, or you could be a dickhead and betray everyone. While that's happening, you could choose to meet with certain characters. You have 2 slots per chapter. Meeting with one person takes up 1 slot. There, that's the very, very shortened version of the story. Now I could already infer that some of you are probably leaning back in your chairs saying, "This sounds like shit. I already see like 30 plot holes in there." Now keep in mind, that's a very shortened and simplified version of the base story. If I were to explain everything, this video would probably be unreasonably long. And I'm probably not even exaggerating there. There's a lot in this game. And that hypothetical comment people made brings me into one of my first points. I've noticed that the game has like no plot holes. Everything is explained. I tried to think of anything that could be considered a plot hole. I couldn't come up with anything other than the time between dates. For example, with some characters it'll become too dark outside for you to walk home, because you'd probably be a big target, so you stay at whoever's house for the night so you don't get swarmed or murdered. But if you chose that specific character for your first slot for the chapter, the next screen would be the character menu, so you choose for the second slot. This gives the impression that your character just kind of teleported home. That's pretty much the extent to what I could think of. And even that doesn't technically count as a plot hole. The story is divided up into chapters, not days. It's never specified how many days that the protagonist stayed in the dragon's world or whatever. So there's no clear time difference between these dates. So let's go through some of the more popular questions. Why is their world so similar to ours? That's explained. Why is their government and society so similar to ours? That's explained. Why do they still have items that were clearly designed for humans even though it would not be practical for a dragon? Explained. Why do they speak and write our language and even refer to it as the English language? Explained. And this one even goes further by showing that the version of English that they know is a slightly earlier version than the one that humanity currently knows. So they don't know certain words that were made popular by English authors after a specific time. I'm not kidding when I say I haven't seen a single plot hole. It's clear a lot of thought and heart went into this, and it's honestly really admirable. And it's not even like all these explanations are intrusive to the immersion or whatnot. All of these are done in a satisfying and discreet way that just makes you go, oh, that's why. It doesn't stop you in the middle of reading to go like, oh, by the way, the reason because of this is that. It's an excellent example of show, don't tell storytelling. It doesn't explicitly tell you everything, but it gives you just enough so you can make the connections yourself. So at this point I'm thinking like, wow, the story's written even better than I remember. This must be the result of a large team of skilled writers all communicating efficiently to avoid any contradictions, and no. This story was written by one guy. M.B. Saunders wrote this entire thing. This guy wrote a fantastic, deep story with multiple endings and multiple dialogue changes, and he didn't make any plot holes or slip-ups. How? How do you do that? Okay, little backstory here. Back in 2016, my computer club group was assigned with making a game. My group decided that we were going to do a John Cena dating simulator because that meme was relevant at the time. I was in charge of writing the whole thing. Do you guys realize how difficult and time-consuming it is to write something with multiple endings, multiple dialogue changes, choices? It's pretty freaking difficult. And that was just a little group project. With a game as big as Angels with Scaly Wings, forget about it. A lot of other writers would probably let their guard down and make a lot more mistakes. He didn't. There's a bunch of like little moments where any other writer would have probably slipped up. Like right here, for example, he always keeps the backstory in mind. And right there is the keywords, used to. Every little reference made to the human world stays consistent with its backstory. That shows a lot of dedication and it's freaking impressive. Like, I want to shake this man's hand. That's awesome. That's why this guy's review kind of pisses me off. He didn't even spend enough time in the game to get one ending, and he points out things that he thinks are plot holes, even though all of the things that he mentions are explained. And I'm not saying that MB Saunders did absolutely everything. Again, there's this whole team behind the game. Everyone did a fantastic job with it. So on top of the lack of plot holes, the story itself is phenomenal. MB Saunders cleverly places like little clues and hints all throughout the game in a way that it all like satisfyingly comes together at the end. And as I mentioned before, the game has a huge scientific element to it. It covers stuff ranging from like psychology to traveling through space and time. I actually like learned a few things from this game. In Lorms, you learn a bit about theoretical physics and how the portal works by using wormholes and whatnot, and the general structure of the universe. It's all like really interesting to read if you like science. Take this side character named Kevin. He apparently studies psychology in college. The protagonist asks him for a quick crash course to see if the dragon's understanding of psychology is any similar to ours. Then Kevin starts to describe Sigmund Freud's proposed structure of psyche. Id, ego, and superego. Id is your instinctual urges, superego is your morals, what determines right from wrong, and ego is the middle guy. He has to make decisions that satisfy the id's urges while not breaking any rules and upsetting the superego. Conveniently, as I played it back in February, I had just learned that lesson in my psychology class right before playing the game.
Literally just learned this. I just took notes on this fucking section less than 4 hours ago.
Hold on, if this is in the dragon's world, how do they know about Sigmund Freud, a human's theory? And even that's explained. And Kevin here never actually mentioned Freud himself, just the theory. And this actually kind of leads into another point. The game has a lot of symbolism in it. Now, I would love for you guys to discover this yourself, so I'm not going to explicitly say it. Let's just say there's a reason that this side character all of a sudden mentions this specific theory. Even the name of the game has symbolism behind it. And I also find it impressive how, like, a lot of the symbolism actually ties in with other things of symbolism. It's like a constant stream of holy shit, not to mention all the foreshadowing in the game as well.
I don't like where this is going.
Now let's talk more about these characters. The characters are written in a way that gives them actual depth. Each one is surprisingly three-dimensional. And the choices you make actually matter. Like, in other visual novels, you could pretty much say anything and the characters won't care. In this game, yeah, you still have those wacky, zany dialogue options. The difference here is that the characters actually think differently of you if you choose those. If their status with you gets too bad, they're just gonna stop talking to you. As would anyone in the real world in that situation. And like I said before, MB Saunders cleverly places little hints and clues everywhere in a way that it all comes together at the end. And this guy, on top of being a good writer, is apparently a psychological mastermind because he knows exactly how to decimate your emotions. Each main character is connected to each other in some way. Except maybe Lorem. He's kind of separate. That's probably why he isn't on the main banner art, but he still is significant enough to be a requirement for the true ending. Some of these backstories just hit you directly in the feels. And it's not over the top either, it's realistic. It's not like the default backstory where, I have a dark past. My parents and stuff were murdered by the evil Amon. I swore to get my revenge. Take Remy's backstory. It keeps a pretty solid balance. It's pretty freaking tragic, but it's still realistic and believable. And I feel like there's kind of a stigma attached to the phrase tragic backstory. Like, you may think that the backstory I'm referring to right now might be edgy or whatnot, but no. Again, it's the kind of backstory you would actually see in the real world. And holy shit, it's impactful. Ow. One thing I do have to mention though, in visual novels it's kind of a natural thing for you to do, to pay attention to the character's reactions to certain dialogue choices. In most games it's pretty linear. If you say something good, the character will smile or something. This game isn't any exception, although it's probably not as obvious, which isn't actually a problem. A lot of times it actually adds to the realism. In real life, when someone says something that you like, you don't just go, "Ooh, I'm happy!" Yeah, that doesn't happen. However, with the character Anna, I've noticed there isn't a lot of different character models for her emotions. So even if you make the right choice, her model face palms for whatever reason. This could cause you to reload a save file or try something different. It could get pretty deceiving. Anna's a pretty tricky character in general, but the good news is that if you're ever 100% stuck, you'd always look at the wiki for help. And emotion is portrayed really well in this game. I have to say, it's incredible seeing the characters actually have realistic emotions. That's something you don't really see in a lot of other visual novels. In other games, it feels like coded and scripted, and it's weird. In this game, you look at them less of like code written into a program and more as actual living creatures with emotions. And even if you don't like the characters all that much, the story still makes up for it with all the fascinating tech stuff, time travel, theoretical physics, psychology, and all the science that surrounds it. And even though the story is mostly serious, there's still a ton of humor in the game as well. The writer slips in little jokes and references in a lot of places. In a lot of other visual novels, the world is mainly limited to the characters that have an impact on the story. You rarely see any side characters or any other characters than the main cast. Angels with Scaly Wings has a number of side characters that you can interact with. There's also a bunch of characters that just pop up randomly at times. If you go to a certain location, you'll bump into this random character. This lady shows up when you're at a store. If you help this side character save his business, then you'll see a bunch of random townspeople show up. It certainly makes for a better world when it isn't limited to like the same 5 characters. It's not even like the town that you're visiting is like the only town in the world as well. They mention different towns, like cities, and how city life is different than a town's life there. It gives little trivia like none of the dragons have moved to any other continent, so they're all on the same piece of land. I wonder if there's a reason for that. Now about the multiple endings. The endings are set up in a way where none of them are going to be completely satisfactory. There's a good end and a bad end for each character. Now obviously the bad ones are the bad ones. There's not going to be a happy ending there. But even a lot of the good ends leave you as an emotional wreck. This gives you the drive to keep playing to get a better ending. And in order to get the true ending, you're going to have to get the good ends of all 5 characters. Now this may seem like a bit much. Like your first playthrough is probably going to be about 3 to 5 hours long, assuming you actually paid attention, unlike some of those reviewers. But luckily, the game has a very helpful skip feature that makes things colossally faster. It only skips over dialogue that you've seen before, so you're not going to skip over anything new. You just get right to the choices. This game is very replay friendly. It even keeps a lot of the physical items that you find throughout your playthroughs. So when you try again to get a different ending, you don't have to go back to get that specific item, because you'll still have it. And once you get a character's good end, you don't have to meet all the requirements to get that ending again. Another thing I should mention is the soundtrack. A lot of it is royalty-free, which is understandable. It would cost a lot to have your own original soundtrack. But just because it's royalty-free doesn't mean it's bad. I feel like there's also a big stigma attached to royalty-free music. That's mainly after 90% of all YouTubers spam the same song over and over again. Royalty-free music can be good if A, it isn't spammed or overly popular, and B, it's actually used in the correct situations. I'm happy to say that Angels with Scaly Wings soundtrack is good. I can pretty much guarantee that you haven't heard these songs before, so it's not like it's overly popular or spammed, and the songs actually work really well with the scenes that they're used in. It's not like they're spamming royalty-free ukulele at the most heart-wrenching moments. And the soundtrack also works if you're listening to it by itself. It has songs that you can actually listen to and enjoy. I actually have the soundtrack saved on SoundCloud, and Mark Sparling, one of the artists behind the soundtrack, actually did make songs specifically for the game. I actually talked with him. He's a pretty cool guy. I asked him if he still had the MIDI files for 2 songs that he made for the game, and he actually dug through his hard drive and found them for me. And the songs that he made for the game are, again, really fitting. Especially the one that plays during the true ending. That one's like my favorite. And the music isn't disruptive either. Background music is supposed to stay in the background. It shouldn't stop you from reading. So it's good that it's not disruptive. And again, the music fits well with the situations it's being played in. So it helps enhance the scene rather than take away from it. Now my next few points are probably going to be a bit difficult to explain without spoilers, so this is probably where part 1 ends. If you're already even remotely interested in this game, I'd say go get it. Like, go out, get a Steam card, and get this. It's even on sale right now. Unfortunately, by the time this is uploaded, the sale will be over, but the game is definitely still worth full price. It's only $10. It's freaking worth it. And I can't even properly describe the effect that this game had on me. After I got the true ending, I just had this like odd feeling in my stomach, just like, Ow. It left me pretty shook up for the next few days, and that's partially because I wasn't ready. I wasn't expecting the game to completely disintegrate my heart. A lot of the positive reviews are saying around the same thing. They bought it as a joke, they played it as a joke, then they got their emotions crushed. I'd say that's pretty accurate. Needless to say, I still haven't gotten over the game's ending since when I played it in February. And now that I've replayed the game this past week, that only refreshed those feelings. So I'm hurting, but that's okay because this game is awesome. Angels with Scaly Wings, it's so positive, it's phenomenal. Like, it's a literal phenomenon. It's kind of rare to see such unanimous agreement on a game like this. So yeah, this is where part 1 ends. If you want to avoid some spoilers, I say you should probably skedaddle now. Hope you all enjoyed this game review, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
You're still here?
Where do I even begin with this? There is so much to be said. Now, I'm not going to spoil things that I don't need to spoil. I've already confirmed that all of those potential plot holes have been diffused already, so I'm not going to go into extreme detail and spoil everything. That would just ruin the fun. Now, you may have heard me throw the word realistic around a bit in this review. That's actually a really big point I want to make. The story is realistic. And I'm not saying it's realistic because there's sentient dragons and stuff. I'm saying it's realistic because it's all something that could actually happen in real life. It's entirely possible for us to create a portal that takes us back in time. It's entirely possible for us to create genetically engineered organisms with human intelligence. It's possible for humanity to lose everything based on one solar event. All of this could actually legitimately be done in real life. And again, the situations that the characters are in, it's believable. You could actually get invested in their stories. Also, the game includes like realistic government processes and regulations, and their society isn't perfect. It's flawed, just like any other society. Again, a lot of thought went into this. In the game, the Dragon Society basically has a parallel to ours. We have myths about dragons, they have myths about humans. And the writer doesn't forget this either. Dragons don't know anything about human culture or just humans in general. There'd be little moments where characters would ask what something is, like why do humans do this, why don't humans have whatever. It's kind of fascinating, and I'll explain why. Since humans are the only sentient species on Earth, it's easy to overlook some of the stuff we do. It all seems so common to us that we just don't ask questions. With stuff like this, you get to see humanity from a different perspective, and it could really make you stop and think like, wow, humans are weird. And having the presence of another sentient species in general brings up a lot of questions. Like, what if one day here, another species was suddenly given sentience? What rules would apply here? How would our society change? How fast would they be given rights, if at all? Would we be divided, or would we live alongside each other? Needless to say, this game opens up to a very interesting and thought-provoking experience. In various parts of the games, you get a glimpse into some of the dragon culture. Since they don't really know what humans look like, dragons usually interpret humans as having some reptile features. This actually touches upon a subconscious effect that we experience when we create myths. Did you ever notice how a lot of our myths actually have a lot of human features and characteristics in them? Fairies, gnomes, dwarves, giants, angels, ogres.
Don't care. What are you doing in my swamp?
When creating myths, we automatically imagine them as a similar structure to our own species. It's this really odd, like, subconscious thing that probably has some sort of psychological explanation to it. The point is, the dragons are no exception to this. They still experience this effect, which makes sense because the two species' brain structures are actually similar. So speaking of interesting shit, this game has a lot of it. One moment that I find extremely interesting is during Lorm's route. You end up getting into a discussion about the portal, and you're introduced to a theory about space-time and theoretical physics. It touches upon why you experience déjà vu, or why you may experience something in a dream that comes true later on. It proposes the theory that these moments are actually you seeing stuff that you from another reality experienced, and it ties back into Freud's theory. The reason why you're able to experience that is because it's all connected from the higher self, or superego. Also, time travel is a large factor in this game, and I really like how it was executed. Everyone's had a moment where you wish you could go back and do things differently. Well, in here you can. I'm a big fan of choices. Like, in the future, I wish that there would be a media format where you have full control over what happens. Like, you could actually be in the movie. Like, if it's supposed to be a murder mystery film or something, I wish I could just, like, pop my head and go like, hey, that guy's the murderer, I just saved all of you. Creating something like that would be very difficult, but this game got closer to that experience than anything else I've seen. Whenever you use the portal to go back to day one of the side effects is amnesia, so you kind of just forget everything you just saw, along with another factor that gets revealed during the true ending. So you can't exactly point your finger and go, hey, I know what the solution is. However, tying into what was being said in Lorm's route, how you could experience stuff from other realities, every time you reset to day one, there's usually a little detail that's added. Like the protagonist would subconsciously remember things from other time timelines, and it would allow you to make different choices. Like I said before, once you get a good ending, you don't have to go through all those requirements to get that ending again. Completing these endings makes permanent changes to the story. If a character dies in the story normally, they won't die after you complete their good ending. And again, it all ties into that whole multiple realities theory, and it's interesting as shit. With one of the endings, I'm not saying which one, you're confronted with an issue. Everything could turn out perfectly okay, but you know that humanity is going to close the portal soon. So that would leave one side unsaved, since they wouldn't be able to receive the generators that they need. My first thought was like, why can't we just tell them to wait? Then to my surprise, I clicked to go to the next dialogue box, and then it immediately says why we can't do that. Again, nearly everything is explained. A bunch of the endings have different plot twists and stuff to them, so it's really cool seeing each one. And it all leads up to the true ending. Whew. Probably one of the best endings I've ever seen to a story in general. Now this one I absolutely refuse to spoil. That needs to be experienced blind. There's even a small extension to the true end, and it hints at an unmentioned part of the backstory. And we still don't really know what's up with that, but I'm certainly interested. Alright, normally right now I would say that's about it. But saying that right now would be a lie. There's so much more that I could talk about, but if I were to cover everything, I would probably be here for a couple more hours. I'm not even exaggerating there. This recording is already an hour and 20 minutes, and I still don't want to spoil too much. Again, if you're even remotely interested, I highly recommend you go pick this game up on Steam. I can't even express how much I recommend it. And yeah, this review is pretty out of place on this channel, but I don't mind. I just wanted to do this game some justice because it's criminally underrated. In other news, I'm pretty sure there was actually an extension or a spin-off to the game announced recently. It would be a more linear game, focusing more on the characters, so I'm certainly excited for that. Maybe it's even going to explain the significance of the extended true end, I don't know. Alright, well, hope you all enjoyed this game review, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye. Don't let him go first. I found out what happens when you let him go first. Don't let him go first.